Hi, this is Pete Lyons with Let's Play Salesforce. And in tonight's Tableau CRM video, we are joined again by champion of the channel and champion of Einstein Discovery, Bobby Brill, who's going to show us all the exciting new Spring 21 features that we have to offer. And I predict that you're going to enjoy it. So, Bobby, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Pete. I'm really excited to share all of the amazing things that my team has been building for the Spring 21 release. We've got it on our I guess, pre-release environments, soon to be coming to sandboxes. So I'm going to go through a bunch of features that are going to be available for everyone, and then a few that are pilot features that you're going to have to kind of request. Typically, I start looking at Einstein Discovery and the stuff that we do with stories, but I'm starting somewhere new, and this is somewhere that we should have been able to do a long time ago. Pretty much every single one of our enterprise customers has asked for this, and we're finally able to deliver a packaging with respect to predictive models. So what I'm looking at here is in a sandbox, I built a predictive model. I deployed it. I connected it to my my lead object, so my predicted lead conversion, and I wanted to get that into production. I had tested it all out. Everything was working exactly the way I wanted to, and I wanted to kind of promote it to production. So with the Spring 21 release, we finally have the ability to package up predictive models. I can promote it from sandbox to production. I can create a managed package. I can use metadata API. And what I've done here is it's already done. I mean, demoing of packaging doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but I've already deployed this model that was built in my sandbox, and I deployed it into production. So finally, we have the ability to do this. And in doing so, let me just kind of go into the package manager to show you the two new metadata types. We have discovery prediction, and this is the container that holds all of the predictive models. So the container has if there's a prediction field, or what object is this connected to? That's what lives in the metadata of the prediction. And then if I choose one of those, it's going to choose any of the models that go along with it. So let me find one here. Let's just choose any of them, whatever. So if I add this to the package, it's going to pull in it's going to try to spider it because it's a package, and pull all the things that are related. So I can see that prediction field, or predictive model. And I can see all of the predictive field that it came with, and the model is somewhere here as well. Discovery model should be somewhere in there. So it basically just works. I do want to call out that the story that was used to create the predictive model, I think we've confused people thoroughly on this, but the story, unfortunately, is not packageable at this time. The only thing that's packageable is that deployed model. The deployed prediction along with the deployed model, or models that go along with that prediction. So my most excited feature of the release is just trying to make people's lives easier with respect to building this out in a sandbox and promoting to production. All right, now I'm going to move on to another feature that we came out with. I think it was 2 Dreamforces ago. We announced Einstein Data Insights, and it was basically Einstein Discovery for your Salesforce reports. I was really excited. In fact, I joined the team to promote this product. So I was the guy that was going to be the product manager for this Einstein Data Insights feature. And then we had some people leave the company, and Einstein Discovery is our flagship product. So we actually decided so I moved into that role, and there was a lot to do there. So we kind of put Einstein Data Insights on the back burner, didn't do a whole lot of features. It was sort of what you see is what you get. It's still a great feature, but we finally had the ability to reinvest in it and do some more to Einstein Data Insights. So I wanted to start with this before I go into the actual Einstein Discovery Stories enhancements. So the first off, we renamed the button. It used to say Insights to Analyze. I think Insights is it's an overloaded term, if you ask me. But with Analyze, it's you're looking at a report, and you want to look at you want to analyze the details on this report. In this case, I'm looking at closed deals from 2020. This is my demo work. And I've got a few columns in here that kind of tell me some characteristics about individual deals I had, like the region and the segment, what was the total amount, how long did it take to close, and whether it won or lost. And I'm going to click Analyze. And the first thing that Einstein Data Insights is going to do is it's going to look at the occurrences of all the values and how they interact with other values. So it got kind of a facelift. So what we do, we have this one chart here that kind of gives you some information, and then below, rather than give you a bunch of charts, we're just kind of highlighting some insights. And again, this is all rate of occurrence. So if I were to click on this, we're looking at this supplies group column, and I can see most of the supplies group are this car accessory, and the next most occurring is this performance and non-auto. So there's really nothing here that's super, you could do this yourself in a well, I guess you couldn't because it's a rate of occurrence, but I could do like a chart where I'm looking at I group by supplier's account, and I can do the count of rows, and I'd see that this one's the highest and this one's the next, and so on. So it's surfacing up some of these kind of occurrence insights. I can now kind of click through all of the chart. So instead of having before I had to kind of go through this list here and scroll and click, now I can do it all here. Or if I filter down, it just shows up here. So it's a little bit easier to navigate. And there's more to it than this, because this is just the rate of occurrence. If I click this home button, it's going to take me back to, I can create a new analysis. This is where this is the discovery feature here. So I've got maximize or minimize, and I can choose a variable here. So let's say I want to look at maximizing is won is true. So this is, I want to maximize the occurrences of my won opportunities. So if I click create analysis, you can kind of see how quickly this goes. This is all real time and live, and we're looking at 78,000 records here. So it's going to take a couple seconds. And what I've done here is I've looked at what is driving my won opportunities. So we have this new chart that shows up here. I'm really excited about this kind of the way you navigate through this, because we've done the same thing to Einstein Discovery stories as well. So I can see the key drivers. So the first thing I look at is what is the key driver. So the opportunity amount is the highest correlation to my won deals, how long it's been in the sales process, what was the route to market, and so on. So I can kind of click through this through that chart. You can see it filtered down an opportunity amount. If I click this away, I can see this again. So let's take a look at this a little bit further. So I'm looking at opportunity amount, and I can see what is the win rate for each of these buckets here. So what we've done is we've taken all the numbers and we've turned into buckets, same thing like we do with Einstein Discovery. And I can see cases where my win rate is higher versus places where my win rate might be a little bit lower. So again, it's just looking at my data, and it's telling me kind of what is driving that outcome. So it's I'm hoping that this is a little bit more user friendly to some of the users. We're going to be doing a lot more to this feature coming in the next few releases. We have this what changed feature that we built for Einstein Discovery stories. We're going to bring that onto here in the next release. That didn't make this release, unfortunately. But it's going to be a lot easier to kind of use and maintain, and it's a little bit, in my mind, it's a little bit more readable. We've gotten some good feedback from some of our early customers as well. So Einstein Data Insights, we're finally kind of doing some more to it. Also wanted to note this, a lot of customers, they had Einstein Data Insights, but they didn't know they had Einstein Data Insights. And that was because we had a setup, there was a setup permission that you had to turn this feature on, even though you can't use the feature unless you have the can use Einstein Data Insights user permission. It's part of the Einstein Analytics Plus permission set license. So you have to have that, and then your admin would have had to turn on this feature. So we said, we're just going to automatically turn on this feature for all customers. In fact, we did the same for Einstein Discovery. So if you own Einstein Analytics Plus, Einstein Data Insights and Einstein Discovery are automatically turned on. In fact, there's no more setup to turn this on. It's just automatically on for if you have it, because if you turn on Einstein Analytics, these features sort of get turned on with it as well. So really excited that it's just going to be turned on for everyone. Users can come here, they're going to find this button, and hopefully it's going to be useful for them. All right, so now.
And quick comment before we move
go ahead.
On.
Please.
It's normally I don't really cover much on the standard report builder, despite the fact that I use it multiple times a week. But since there's probably not going to be another one of my videos this release cycle that shows this interface, probably a good time to call out. I'm under the impression that the report builder got a whole lot of love in the lagginess department this release, because it is quite laggy. And I just want to call out that I heard there was a massive efficiency focus to make the report builder behave a little more nicely this time around.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the reports, you said use it all the time. I use it all the time. It is the most used feature for all of Salesforce across all of our clouds. Everyone uses reports. So it is, it's the reason why I loved Salesforce 12 years ago when I was a customer, because of how easy it is to build reports. The Lightning Builder came in, it slowed things down. I liked the look and feel of it, but I sometimes like things to just kind of work quickly. Of course, most of our customers said the same thing, and we absolutely focused heavily on the performance of our report builder. So that's 100% accurate there. All right, so now we're going to go into some of the Einstein Discovery story enhancements that we've done. The last release, we brought to you 3 story templates. These were the use cases that I worked with customers directly with to implement, use cases where it's on kind of a standard data model. So your sales data model, your opportunities, accounts, activities, and all those things, it's pretty standard. So what we did is we built these story templates. And in the winter release, the story templates, all they did was build out a, you got a data set, you got a story, and you got a dashboard that kind of explained kind of what we did. So we took these templates, so same 3 templates, and we took it one step further. And we, so as part of the template creation process, we're now actually, after we create the story, we actually deploy the model and we apply the model directly back on that data set so we can actually apply the scores. So we've taken it slightly, it takes a little bit longer to create, but you end up with a data flow with the predict transformation that then scores all of the rows of data as well. So you can not only get the story, but you can drill in and understand a little bit more about the accuracy, and then any of the records that weren't used in the story will be will get a score. So this is just an example of the maximize win rate. So this is one of the 3 stories, and I'm going to go into this about story dashboard. So I still really love this dashboard because it's doing all the things that we couldn't point out in the story. This is what I love about dashboards and these templates is we can kind of put whatever kind of documentation we can. And then you sort of make it, you make it in context of what the user is looking at.
I love how clean and simplistic it is too.
Right, because I think dashboards can show you data, but they can also kind of tell a story. So it's almost, I almost see this as a customized user's manual for each person's template. And because we've updated the flow where we deploy the model. And then we rerun the data flow. So we actually run the data flow twice. It gave me an opportunity to add some additional links to this. So now when we create the dashboard, we actually know the link to the story. So I put in this link here, open story, right? So if you want to go directly to the store, I know it's clearly like right there in the application, but maybe you don't know what this is. It's your first time looking at it. So we threw in a link, and then you can see. Spoiler alert: there's also a lot of UX changes we did, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So back to the story, or back to the dashboard. We get this training data set. I threw in a link here to actually explore the training data set. So we threw in the score here. So again, this is the likelihood to win score. We have an accuracy flag here to say this is the training data set, right? So we're predicting that it's going to lose. We're saying, you know, a score of 30. If it's less than 50, we're calling that a loss. And the actual value is true. So we're saying, hey, we weren't accurate here. So we're able to look at that accuracy. You can kind of build your own charts on that. Nothing changed here. We told you, you know, how many rows were analyzed. But now what we have is, now that the predictive model has been created, we have the story, we know a little bit more about the predictive model. So we know that the accuracy is, we're 79.21% accurate, and that is based on that accuracy flag that we created. And then, you know, Einstein Discovery has generated this predictive model that can be used to generate predictions. Well, let's see, open in Model Manager, what does that do? So it takes me directly to the model that was created and deployed, so I can see it here. A couple things I want to call out. We don't connect this directly to the, we don't do any field mapping here, so you can't really use this yet in the lightning card in Salesforce. But what you can do is you can edit the settings, and you can take care of all that here. So if you want to map your fields directly to Salesforce, you want to connect it to a supplemental data set, you can do all this directly here. But out of the box, it doesn't do this automatically. We didn't want to scare people and make them think that, oh, we've now deployed this back to Salesforce. So there's the predictive model, and that was again linked from this dashboard. And then, like I said, there's deals in that data set that weren't used to build the predictive model, but we applied the score. So it was so if we were to use this on, you know, real data, I don't have too many open opportunities in this org, of course, but this would apply the score to all my open opportunities as well. So I can then click here and let's look at the prediction for those deals. So we sort it by the likelihood to win. And I can see that here's my top opportunity that's going to win. Of course, we have all the linkage back to the records in Salesforce. So you can kind of click on that and take your action. Oops. So if I wanted to do that, I can do that. It's all out of the box like that. And then we threw a chart here and said, hey, here's what your total amount of open deals that are likely to win versus open deals that are likely to lose here. Yeah, so that is the update to the template. So all three templates get that new flow. So now, let's go ahead.
I hate to nitpick, but back on that dashboard.
Oh yeah.
Go back to that dashboard and scroll down to the text table under the prediction accuracy, and just hover over where you got your 79% there.
Oh, yep.
Yep, and hover over the text below it. You have widget actions enabled on a text widget. Hover over, no, the block right above that. Right there. See, you got the drop down.
Oh.
That feature, in my opinion, should be disabled by default on text widgets. Just saying, that's a pet peeve.
I've got, you know what? I could add to that pet peeve. Have you ever done a bar chart that only has one grouping, and by default the legend is turned on? Do you ever keep that legend on?
No. And
that's another.
Like, and I'll usually drop, you know, like I'll get rid of like axes and labels and stuff like that, and it's like, why would I want the legend if I only have one value in it? Everything's blue, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So I agree with you. I absolutely think there's we can do better. So,
well, you've got bigger fish to fry and you're delivering awesome. So I will overlook this.
not a problem. All right, so I showed you this a little bit a second ago, and this is our brand new user interface for stories. So our goal with this is we presented a lot of data in our story. It's a lot of useful data, but pretty much every single customer I've ever walked through this, the first thing they said is, okay, what am I supposed to do next? So we're hoping with this a new navigation flow, you should be able to figure out what you should be able to do next. So the first thing we added is this new kind of list of top variables with correlation. We saw this in Einstein Data Insights. Prior to this release, you had to go into settings, we used to call it settings, and you would see this list. Well, now it's front and center on the first view that you have. We've eliminated the what happened, why it happened, what could happen, and what's the difference, which pretty much no one knew existed because it was hidden. So we've eliminated all those buttons, and everything that you see, you're intended to kind of click through. So first thing is this kind of list of variable here. If I click onto one of these, I see everything by amount. You can see this new kind of, what do we call this? Breadcrumbs at the top to kind of show me what I'm looking at as I click into a certain value. Now I'm looking at this bucket, this large bucket. And I can see exactly, what is the row count, what is the average win rate for this bucket, and that is above average. I'm going to go into close date because this is going to tell my story a little bit better. So what we're looking at here is win rate by month, by when the deal was closed. And I can see March is very low and October is very high. In fact, it called these things out here as well. So I'm going to go into March, and I might be interested in why March is so low. So if I've clicked on March, I can see what the average is. I can see it's 10% below the average for all. So this is the entire win rate. And I have this button, why does this do worse? Before, you would have to click into why it happened, and then I'd have to search for close date March. But really, what we want to point out here is we're telling you exactly why this value does worse than average. So we've started at this global average of 27%. We already know that it's 10% less than average. And I can see all of the factors that go into that. Nothing's changed here, except now, as I look at this, I'm specifically looking at why does March do worse? Because the why it happened is very specific to a field value. Before, you could filter on fields and still click why it happened, and then we'd give you a bunch of charts, and it wasn't really obvious what you were supposed to do with all those charts. So now that we've kind of made it into the navigation, hopefully it's going to be a little bit more self-explanatory. So this is telling me why March did worse. So then I see this compare to, and you remember when I showed you October was the highest. So maybe I want to see, I'd like to compare March to October. So how is sales in March compared to sales in October? And again, we've got March is 16.5% of my win rate, which is down here. And October is 38% win rate, which I see here. And each of these bars is explaining kind of how we get from October down to March here. And I can see things where March actually does better if it's a simple opportunity or if it's opportunity type new business. So this is where March outperforms October, but for the most part, October kind of outperforms March. And it explains to me why it does that. So again, it uses that predictive model to explain what happened with my data. So, we had what happened, why it happened, but really there's pieces of the story that really tell you what happened throughout. So this it's a little bit easier to kind of navigate through. The other tab, what could happen? That's actually where we renamed it as prediction. So it works exactly the same as it did before, where you kind of you put together a row of data based on some of the fields, and you get a prediction, and then you can maybe create an actionable field and see, if you were to take that action, what would happen. So this is all stuff that was here before. Nothing really changed here.
Yeah, this is always one of my favorite things to showcase during a demo. I've got this one for financial services where we're talking about insurance churn, where the last premium change was an increase and the renewal offer is none. And this is a great dashboard to show that there's a huge distinction between what the set of circumstances are and what's actionable. You can't say to your customer, well, hey, if you lived in New York instead of California, I would probably do better selling you a deal. But it's all about what's actually actionable versus the influencing factors that got us there in the first place. And then my other question, I've been observing this in Winter 21 orgs as well.
Yeah.
Right below your prediction and your threshold, that gray bar right there.
Yep.
That used to be like a stack bar where it was green on one side and red on the other, and now it's a scroll bar. So I don't know if that's a bug, or I observed it starting like I don't know,
absolutely
maybe
a bug. That would be absolutely a bug. It is logged already. I was hoping you didn't call that out, but yeah, thanks for pointing it out.
Sorry.
No, it's all right.
I mean,
we are aware of it.
It popped up during a demo, and it distracted me enough that I dropped my script, and I'm like, wait, yeah. So, well, hey, bugs happen. If your product is bug free, then your product is cardboard.
I 100% agree with you on that. In fact, I'm about to show you another one. This exists on the next page. I'm about to show you as well. And that takes us into to our model metrics, which we did a big update. There it is. There's that scroll bar. We did a bunch of updates in the winter release we totally redid all of model metrics. But there's a few other places it's not complete. There's a lot of work we wanted to do here. So one of the things we did in this release is we updated this prediction examination page. So in the previous release, we actually showed you the first 100 rows of the data set, which a lot of times was not very useful. So now instead of the first 100 rows, it's now 100 randomly sampled rows of data. And then the next big thing we did is we're highlighting here where our prediction was accurate versus not accurate. And again, it's all based on a threshold that you can choose here. So you can choose a specific threshold, and we're going to show you whether or not our predicted versus actual. If I click into each of these rows, I can see kind of the what was the predicted outcome versus actual. Here's that threshold. Here's what the score was. Top factors. This now comes on. This all fits in within the page. I think there was like a scroll here at one point, so that's been fixed. So it's a little bit easier to use, and it really focuses on whether or not the prediction was accurate or not. Because this is examining of your training data set. And as I showed you in the template, you can actually go a step further. And if you apply the prediction directly to your data set, you can do this across all the rows of data. This is just a sample here. And then I wanted to highlight, we have random forest is our newest model type that is GA in the spring release. So this is a third tree-based model that is now available. This is probably one of the most asked for model types to be supported by our friends that are data scientists. Like, you got to have random forest in here, so we finally got it in here. GLM will always perform faster, but GBM, XGBoost, or random forest may actually perform a little bit better. So again, if you don't know which to use, we suggest using Model Tournament, and we're going to try all the models. It's going to take a little bit longer to create your story, but you're going to end up with the model that is most accurate for your type of data. All right, so now I'm going to go into some other features that we did. I showed you the, no, I don't think that's this one. I want to go to this one, this tab. There we go. Okay, so this is in Model Manager. We had your accuracy. We have a chart that shows you how accurate the model is. With the latest release, we have this performance alert. So, what am I supposed to do with this if I see the accuracy is dropping as it clearly did from this change to this change? Well, I can set up performance alerts. So I can get performance alerts if the prediction accuracy decreases. So if I build a model and it tells me that I'm going to have an accuracy of about, let's say, 70%, well, I'm going to be alerted if it drops 80% below that accuracy that it was trained for. So I can set this this threshold here. So alert me if it's 80% of that accuracy when it was trained. I can also create notifications for too many missing values. So if I built a model and I'm expecting some data and I don't see that data, I'm going to get a missing value alert. So I can set this specifically for missing values. In fact, I would see it over here. I've got out of bounds and missing values. So I can set a threshold based on the percentage of records that were scored with missing values. And then I think the one that's actually the most useful is too many out of bounds values. So if I train a model on certain values and then it sees a value that's outside of that range, well, we consider that out of bounds. A good example is I build something on a subset of record types and I try to score a new record type that comes in. Well, if record type was one of the fields used in my model and it sees a new value for that record type, it doesn't know what to do with that. It doesn't know what value to apply to that new record type. So it considers it out of bounds. And so your final score is actually not as accurate. So you can get notified on too many records that are out of bounds. In fact, anytime I'm helping a customer, I don't think they even see that they have performance warnings, or they see the warnings and they're not really sure what they're supposed to do with it. I see this all the time. So I think with this feature, I'm hoping now that you can get alerted on it, that people will start asking, well, what am I supposed to do? In fact, I think we just updated our documentation to talk about what to do with it. Okay, so then I can set the notifications because I don't necessarily want this every day. So we've got weekly and monthly and when to run it. And then of course, whoever sets this up automatically gets added to this, but I can always add people to the list because there's always going to be a team of people that want to do this. So not only do we support users, but also groups. So if you set up a group, add all your people to the group, add that one group to the performance alert, and there you go.
Which means by extension, you also support roles and subordinates because you can add those to groups.
Right. Absolutely. Yes. Anything you can add to a group.
I probably wouldn't want to set the alert to CEO and subordinates, but
probably not.
Like if IT has its own, like there's a particular role, you could do that. But I think that's a really, really, really cool feature, because if Discovery is doing its job right, then in time the model is going to slip. And like one of the reasons why I remember back in 2016, the client that I was working on, I was having a lot of neck problems at the time, and I was flying on site a lot, and I was just hurting from like trying to nap on airplanes. And I thought to myself, like they're telling me how they'll take medical providers from Boston and put them to work in Seattle, and I'm thinking to myself, man, that's gotta suck. And I thought to myself, I wonder if there's a correlation between short-term attrition and providers staffed outside of their home state. And so I built a dashboard focused around this, demonstrating that, I created these buckets to say, like, they quit after one shift, they quit after a week, they quit within a month, et cetera, because the onboarding process is really expensive. And I was able to make a very compelling argument that, there was a disproportionate likelihood to attrite early if you were working outside your home state. And about 6 months later, I was doing a different work stream with them, and it came up in conversation with a user that had just never seen that dashboard, and we were talking about it. And I went to show them the dashboard, and the dashboard was no longer telling me that story. And the reason why was because that was an actionable insight, and the business process changed to more thoroughly vet candidates that were going to be working out in a different state and would have to relocate. And so after 6 months, things were starting to calm down on that. And by the same token, I could imagine that as your pick list values evolve, you're going to have more out of range options. But as your business strategy and your user behavior evolves based on the predictions that are being given to the users, then you're living in a different landscape now, and the model's going to fall out of sync. And people just kind of assume, because this is so easy to configure, I'm going to set it, I'm going to forget it, and it's good forever. That's not the case. And having an alert that proactively tells you, by the way, this thing that you set up has slipped out from its original, accuracy. I think that's extremely beneficial.
Yeah, exactly. That's your whole story that you told. That's exactly what we use. That's why we talk about this feature, because if your model is working correctly, then you're going to be changing your behavior. And if you're changing your behavior, then your model's not going to be performing as well, and you should be notified of such things. It's in fact why we built this model refresh feature, because I think a lot of predictive models with AutoML today are automatically doing this. But there's danger in automatically refreshing a model, so we wanted to make it an opt-in feature and not necessarily refresh it at all times based on certain criteria. So if there's because there's many reasons why you might not want to refresh, and that's that out of bounds thing. So if you have new data that's coming in, well, you're going to want to make sure you give a look at that model, that story, to make sure that it's still, it's still what you want to be happening, and you don't want to filter things out, or that new value is actually something you don't want to include in a model. You want to create a segment. So that's why we've built our model refresh with some guardrails to protect against some of those things. Model refresh again was this was our big feature for the winter release. So this is already out there for everyone. But yeah, so the notifications, this one's new for spring. And we have these model versions that are being created today. Every time you refresh, you get a new model version. And so we were tracking all this history, and I think a couple customers said, hey, how do I revert back? And we said, we should really build a UI for that. I think there's an API that exists today. And we're like, we'll build a UI for that. So we built a history tab, so you can see the date and time when the model was changed. So I've got this, change 43 here, which is the latest one, and maybe I want to revert back to the model. I can also see the story that was created with each of the versions. So you have full kind of transparency with, what was done by who, when, and show me the story that goes behind it. Because we want to have explainability in as many places as possible. All right, I think this missed our last video because it was pilot anyways. It's finally GA. The new recipes transformation again, recipes 3. I love it. It's because I can do data flows and recipes all in one. It's a lot faster in the spring release, and it has our discovery predict transformation GA. So kind of like the predict transformation in data flows, it now works in recipes, and it works a little bit better than the data flow one. And that is because there's a couple features here that the data flow didn't support, and that is field mapping. So prior to recipes, you wanted to apply a prediction to a data flow. Well, you had to make sure the field names matched exactly the same, which sometimes that's easy to do, but sometimes it's really hard if you're taking a model and applying it to a totally different data set. So you had to make sure that the names matched exactly. Now you can do field mapping from your model to your data set. And then data flows only included a score. And a lot of customers ask me, okay, well, how do I know what the predictive factors were or the improvements? What if I want to get a list of all records to do a certain improvement on? How do I do that? Well, the answer at the time was, okay, you got to do you got to do use the write back manage package, which I don't want anyone to use anymore, and actually write back the predictive factors and or improvements back to the Salesforce records, then pull them in with a data flow or a recipe, and then you can build a dashboard on it. Well, with the Discovery Predict transformation, you could do it all directly within recipe. So by default, you get the score, and then there's this options where you can include top predictors, and I can include up to top 3 predictors, and then up to 3 improvements. I don't have any improvements for this this specific model, but what we get with that is a bunch of fields, and this is what it looks like. So you get a predicted score. So this is the name of the model, so that's why it says predicted is 1, and then you get a predictor, so factor 1 and the impact, and then you get factor 2 and the impact, and you get factor 3 and the impact. So notice this is not a multi-value, it's not a multi-value field. We've taken these 3 factors and we've created individual columns for them. And we have an impact as a separate column as well. This way it's a little bit more actionable. You can build dashboards on it. You can kind of do what you want with it. And we also use a naming convention where we've got field and colon with the value, and if it's a second order factor where it's 2 fields, there's going to be a comma in here. And if you want to make it readable, you could always do a transformation on this and do some string parsing to make this sound a little bit better. But by default, it's not. Don't ask about this decimal. I've already logged a bug on that. It shouldn't be that many decimal places on numbers.
I was gonna.
Were you? Nice.
I was going to say that field is very precise. That's more than 18.
The bug was logged as 2 decimal places, so it's consistent. And if there's zeros after the decimals, then let's just delete, or not delete, then have no decimals. That's going to be what it is.
Yeah, I've been doing some interesting work with a client that goes to 6 decimal precision on pennies.
If you've got multi-currency, you have to normalize it. It's got to be in a single currency when everything's built. The predictions will all be based on that currency as well. How we're going to support that in the future, we're thinking about that. But as of now, it's all got to be normalized on a single currency. Oh, here's an example of that legend that I didn't need. So, I wanted to kind of show, I showed you in recipes what you could do, but this is how you would apply it. And in this case, what I did is I built a query that takes those 3 columns that we created and created a single query that puts all that together. So it's co-grouping all 3 of those together into a single column. That way, even though it's a top factor 1 for one record might be different than or might be the same as factor 2 somewhere else. So we wanted to look at the average impact across that that either field value or double field value combination here. So this is what it could look like, and it works in a dashboard. Let's see. So if I want to look at, let's say, my deal that's in qualification. Oh boy, why is this taking so long? There we go. I can see, here's a positive factor and here's some negative factors. I see them here as well, but I see it all in one chart. So if you're interested to see what that looks like, I can show you what the SACL looks like here. So we have them as 3 separate columns so that basically we need to get that impact. So I can basically create these 3 groups and then co-group them together, and then get that impact and then order descending, and I've got the top 10 here. So I can kind of do whatever I want. I can make it look a lot prettier if I use some of the string manipulation. Then it definitely looks a lot prettier than, you know, this with the colon and the commas and all that stuff. So
Yeah,
all that is totally doable.
The other way that you could do that at the data flow layer would be to.
All right, so that's how you could use this, and of course the improvements work the same way as the top factors. All right, so now I want to show you a Tableau feature that we built. So we're finally integrating with Tableau, and we want to integrate Einstein Discovery with Tableau. So this is Tableau release 2021.1. We are creating this dashboard extension. So if you're familiar with Tableau, there's this extension object that you can drag and drop. It will open this brand new extension gallery. I can't show you our listing here yet because it's still being added, but you'll be able to filter on Salesforce extensions, and you're going to see the Einstein Discovery extension show up in this list. And when it shows up in the list, you click on it, and then it'll automatically add it to your dashboard. So what I need to do is, what I've already done in this case, is I've connected this back to my Salesforce instance. I've chosen the, in fact, let me show you the configure. So I've already OAuth'd into Salesforce. So it took me to, you know, standard Salesforce OAuth page. I've configured a prediction. So I have this predicted retention score. So this is customer data or user data, and I have a retention model that I want to apply. And I can connect, I have two options. I can either connect it to a worksheet. So I'm going to get row level predictions based on everything in this table down here, or I can use parameters. So parameters are this great feature in Tableau. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it basically lets me, instead of, it lets me kind of do this what if scenario. So I can create number sliders and choose how that slider looks. I can choose like a pick list. So it's almost, in the Tableau CRM world, it's like it's a static, not a static pick list. What am I thinking here? It's it's a static query, static step, static query or static step, whatever. It's like creating that and then connecting that directly to my predictive model. So this is a great feature to quickly get predictions directly in Tableau. And of course, there's always a field mapping step. So first choose the model, map the fields from the model to in this case, my table. And then I can set some things like the label, what the units come up with, and then how to aggregate. So I'm looking at a retention score. So I want to look at the average retention score across all my data. But if I was predicting a number, let's say I was predicting revenue, I might want to do the sum of revenue. So if I look at across, you know, a bunch of records, I want to sum that instead of taking the average. Still trying to remember what our use case was for median. I think we had one at one point, but average and sum for sure makes sense to me. And then you have some options for top predictors. Maybe I don't want to show the values because it doesn't make sense to people, or I can show the values. I can show up to, I think, 5 predictors on the list, and this is across all the data. So it's going to pick the top ones across, in this case, 9,000 rows of data, and the improvements as well. And I can show an improvement threshold, which is only show improvements where it improves the outcome by a certain percentage. And then also warnings as well. So I get all of these on my dashboard. And as I click, it does a real-time prediction. It actually takes the data from this table. It sends it to my Salesforce instance. It does a prediction, sends the prediction back here, and we show the stuff in this extension here. So this is all done real time on this data, this Tableau data. So I didn't have to do anything to my Tableau data. I just had to connect it back to my predictive model. So we've got the dashboard extension, and we also have an integration with Table Calc. So first thing here is there's a new Einstein Discovery connection with Table Calcs, which is super cool. It uses the same OAuth token that I had for my dashboard extension. So if you're using both, you only have to log in once, which is convenient. So in this case, I've already logged in. And if you're familiar with table calcs, it'll do a calculation based on the kind of the underlying query of this worksheet. So our predictions are all row-based predictions. So you have to have this ID field. You have to have an ID field or something that distinguishes individual rows of data. So I'm going to do this in my detail. And let's look at customer type, and we'll get the prediction. Sorry, I have a bunch of fields here. Predicted engagement. So this is a calculated field. Let me just edit this so I can show you what it looks like. There's a script. We're going to make this UI a little bit better in the future, but for the first release, this script is actually something that is in Model Manager. So if I flip back here under this little drop down, create Tableau table calc. So I can just copy this from here directly and paste it back into Tableau and get my my function. So it might look kind of like it might look a little intimidating, but just, you're copying and pasting and maybe changing some of if the field names change, that's all you have to do. So it's not super difficult. And let's click and drag that on here. And again, we're doing real-time predictions. So this field it's a calculated field. It's sending all the data back to Salesforce, giving my prediction, passing it back. And in this case, I'm looking at the individual predictions across these, in this case, customer type. So I might want to do some analytics on that. So I can do a box plot. This is like my favorite thing to do if I want to understand the distribution of the scores, because an average doesn't necessarily tell me the right story, but how the scores are distributed might tell me a better story here. So I can look at the box plot, and I can also look at the average if I want to. And there's a lot of other ways I can visualize. This is just one way. I can, maybe as an analyst, I can look into this stuff. I can of course do bars. So if I want to look at the average by customer type as bars, I can do that as well. I just like this view a little bit better because it's really telling me more of a story. And then of course it's in worksheets, so I can add it to a dashboard, and then I can do a lot more with the visualizations. So really excited about these two integrations. There's also a Tableau Prep integration that we're doing. So Tableau Prep is it's a separate application that does your preparation work. In fact, the predictions in Tableau Prep, the user experience looks almost identical to the Recipes 3 integration, because we took the Recipes 3 integration and said, okay, this seems like a good user experience. Let's just do the same thing. So I don't really have to show you that integration because I already have in the Recipes 3. Any questions on this?
No, this is looking pretty groovy. And I want to say I am actually really glad that none of our clients asked us to do this with pure code just yet. Because a couple of months ago, I did a video with Tomas about how we could do this with code. And I was like, that seems like a lot of work. Even though we did find some Git repositories and some blog posts.
Yep.
I'm like, you know what? Salesforce always impresses me with how fast they're able to deliver functionality versus how fast I think they're going to. Let's just hold out let's hold out 2 months and see if it's going to be in the product. And sure enough, it is. So I'm really glad we dodged on that one.
Yeah, and just a shameless plug on my team. This was our first product feature that we had featured in the Dreamforce to You keynote. So of the 3 Mark Benioff demos that happened, the Einstein Discovery in Tableau was front and center there. So I was really excited about that. That's sort of I wish it was like a real Dreamforce this year where I could have seen it in person, but it was really exciting to have a feature in that demo. So
nice.
Very happy about that.
If you think about it, this is the first material productized feature since the acquisition of Tableau, where
Yeah.
we're beginning to see the technologies benefiting from one another.
Yeah, and it was sort of a low-hanging fruit integration that we could do, because we built this API 2 years ago. We had a public prediction API. We wanted predictions to be in external tools, and Tableau had this great dashboard extension functionality and even analytics extension functionality with their in that table calc demo I showed you. So it was like a match made in heaven with these two tools that we had an API and they had integration points already built up for third-party tools. We're like, oh, this is simple. We'll throw this together and make it a super useful feature. So it made it easy. All right, so I have just a few more features I want to show. I know I feel like this is maybe, is this my longest demo video? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I'm digging it.
We made a bunch of pilot features as well. Oh, what?
Well, that it's like this is like a really big release. I'm seeing a ton of new stuff, and like it's, a lot of it might seem like little stuff, but a lot of quality of life improvements. The UI continues to evolve. It's almost like if you look at every variant that Batman has had in the however long Batman's been around, like 100 years or something like that, then go take a screenshot of what Discovery has looked like in its life cycle. The maturation process is ongoing. So,
Yeah.
hey, if it's a long video, it's because you guys did a ton of work. So I have no objections.
Awesome. Well, we have a bunch of pilot features that I want to show off, because it's sort of going to tell the story about what we're doing for our next year. So what 2021 is shaping out to be with Einstein Discovery. So the first feature is this model card, and this is a big step for all of Salesforce Einstein kind of ethical AI, because it allows our customers to create these. It's for like an auditing purpose, or if you have users that are they're using predictive models and they want to know, what is this predictive model supposed to be? Well, we can now create these model cards, so they can show up if you're anywhere where the prediction is. We're going to eventually have this linking back to this model card, and you can set up what is the model intended to be used for, who are the intended users, what might be out of scope, any other factors that you might want to put in here. And then we have some metrics. So how was it trained? What was the accuracy? What are some of these other metrics? What did the confusion matrix look like? And again, there's a lot of places for you to just put in some text details. What were the variables used? And then if you want to preview, so how are your users going to look at it? They're going to see all this information. They can see when it was last updated, who updated it, which version it is, all these things that are basically ways to explain what this model. It seems like a very kind of simple feature, but it's really paving our path to make our predictive models more enterprise ready, so that people can really understand what are they supposed to be getting out of this predictive model. So model cards, it's a pilot feature in the spring release. Just ask your account executive if you want to start playing around with this. The next thing is this. We have this predict missing values in recipes. We came up with this, I think, a couple of releases ago, but it only predicts missing text values. When with predictive models, what you see a lot of times is actually null number, missing numbers. In this case, if I have a lead model and the lead model is looking at things like total time spent on a website, or this activity score, total time spent on a website. The first time you get a brand new lead, this is going to be null. They're going to have no time spent on the website, or maybe, I don't know, maybe they came in, or if they came in through some other way, whatever. It's very possible you could have this, this value be null. And so we have this new it's pilot feature, impute missing values. So instead of just taking the average, how Discovery works today on numbers that, or any null value, is we look at the average for that entire variable. Well, a lot of times the average for the entire variable doesn't make sense. In this case, you might want to take the average for some other variable. So let's say I'm looking at leads. Maybe I want to look at instead of the average across everything, I want to look at the average for the lead source. So how did this come in? So it's going to give you a little bit more accurate or potentially accurate value. So this works for like opportunities. When you have a brand new opportunity that comes in, and maybe the age of the opportunity was something that you're using to predict the likelihood of it winning or not, or the number of times it's pushed. Well, you don't want to take 0 because you don't know what the value is, and you might not want to take the average across everything. You want to maybe drill in a little bit more. So with impute missing values, we're allowing you to do that. So it'll build a better model, and it'll also, at the time of prediction, if it sees a null come in, it knows what to do with it because you've already set that up. So this is the first of many smart transformations that we are building for our stories, as well as our at the time of prediction. There's a pilot I wanted to show, but I couldn't because it wasn't set up properly, and that is our first of many unsupervised text transformations that we're going to start doing. So it's a typographical clustering, or think of it as like fuzzy matching. So if I think leads is another good use case here, where if I have if I get the title of the person, a lot of times that title, you might be saying the same thing like senior director. You might have like 4 different ways to write senior director. So with things like typographical clustering, things that are sort of similar will actually be grouped together. So it might not be spelled exactly correct. It might not have the same case sensitivity, but using a typographical clustering algorithm, you can actually group those things together so they mean the same thing, which is what you would intend to do. And then at the time of prediction, instead of it being an out of bound value, it's going to know how to actually group it. So
are we ever going to get that for data prep? And if we did get this released, no spoilers, because I'm doing a different video on data prep pretty soon. But the reason why, I have found that every client always says their data is clean. Sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not. No matter how clean the data is, where you will always find that stuff has gotten swept under the rug is state and country fields on standard address fields. And it's US,
Yep.
U.S. USA. I don't think it can solve for USA versus United States of America, but maybe it can solve for America versus USA. I've built out reusable logic because it's literally every time, every org, you're going to find at least a couple of rows where somebody just had fun and typed the zip code. But yeah, so do you know, is that going to be supported in data prep at some point, or is that roadmapped, or do you just not know?
So of course we didn't show the forward-looking statement on this video, but absolutely the way that we're building all of these smart transformations is that they are going to plug into data prep as well. So all of the transformations that we're doing for discovery are intended for not only for story building, but also at time of prediction. So we need a transformation at the time of prediction. That's super important for our use cases. But everything we're building on the same framework as recipes. So everything that we're doing is also going to have a recipe transformation in the future. So that's the plan anyways. So yes, we want to solve that problem in recipes as well.
And one other thing I just wanted to call out, I had to Google what impute meant.
Of course, I had to be told what that meant as well. So the reason why we instead of saying predict missing values, which is the terminology we use in recipes, the impute missing values, this is something that our data scientists who are typically building predictive models, if you tell them impute missing values, they know exactly what that means. So we wanted to stick with the terminology that is more data sciencey, and then of course have this information icon that explains a little bit more what it does. So part of Discovery is also enabling our data analyst to be more data science savvy
Well, and
and have
everything,
it
I
directly
mean,
in the product.
full disclosure, the vast majority of what I know about data science, I have learned because of following along with the progress of this product.
There you go. So we're doing our job. That's great feedback. That almost sounds like a LinkedIn post to be like, I feel like I'm more data science savvy because of this product. I don't know. Just throwing that out there.
Well, you know, I have to educate myself because my clients ask me, well, what do these things do? And I'm like, oh, that's how you output the R code. Well, what's the R code? Yeah, let me Google that. I'll be right back.
Right. So we're trying to make this user friendly, but also we want to, a lot of these terms that are out there are industry standard for data science, and we want to include those. So we're trying to these are like 2-day conversations we have internally to these types of decisions on what to name things, and when I say 2 days, I mean like a full 2 days, like a bunch of meetings and a bunch of people involved. So we're always discussing. Anytime we have something that might not make sense, we have a big long conversation about, should we say something simpler, or do we stick with that terminology and then try to explain what that terminology is? It's always a big conversation,
Well,
which is always fun to have.
I do appreciate the time spent because that's how you get a high quality product. And I mean, and I can tell you, I sat in on an analytics team sprint review once, and they are very, very thorough.
Oh yeah, those are fun. I remember when I first joined the team, the sprint reviews were my favorite thing because I got to finally learn what all these other teams were doing, and then I'd get these demos of these features that I've been asking for forever, and to see it like actually getting built, even though it's not my team, it's still really exciting. So yeah, so that's our spring 21 release. So I'm super excited. Oh wait, no, there's one more thing I didn't show you. We've talked a lot. I don't know if you have you ever heard us talk about bring your own model? Are you familiar with that at all?
Yes. Actually, and in our if you recall, in our last video, I made a little gag about it because I put a picture of Laser Wolf from what's the Fiddler on the Roof. Laser Wolf from Fiddler on the Roof. I did just a quick screenshot of him because I think that guy just has the coolest name, but it's not like Laser Wolf. That's not what it means, but it's spelled differently and everything. But Laser Wolf, like, how cool does that sound? And you said bring your own model was likely going to initially support TensorFlow.
Yes.
And then I had Fiddler on the Roof song stuck in my head for the next like 2 weeks after that. And there was much Googling to be done because I knew I had heard of TensorFlow, but I had no idea what it was.
And when you Google it, Google's like, hey, this is ours.
Yeah.
These are our models or our libraries.
Yep.
It's all Google owned. But this is the UI for that. So if you have a TensorFlow model in the spring release and you're part of our pilot, you can now upload a either binary classification or regression type model, at least for now. We're going to eventually support more types. So you can upload the model, give it a name, whatever. Test, favorite name, and then put what are the variables for that model, because you gotta put in some of the stuff. We can't necessarily figure it out all from the file that you upload. So you put in some stuff, and then you'll see these uploaded models. So these are TensorFlow, three TensorFlow models that have uploaded, and from here you can then deploy them so that you can see them in your deployed predictions list and apply them directly to your data.
What is Will I Survive?
That's the Titanic, but it's a different version of it. It's TensorFlow version of it. I know.
Cool.
Yeah. Will I Survive? Yes. That is what that is. I believe someone else uploaded this, and I don't have control over the name, but I love that that piqued your interest. So you can now do these TensorFlow models, and it's based on Python. So it's Python code that calls these TensorFlow models, and we want to have more generic Python libraries supported in the future. So we're doing a lot with this feature. Most of what we're working on in this pilot is figuring out sizes of models that we can actually support. There's a lot of performance-related things with predictions. So predictions can only be done in very limited capacity. In fact, I don't think the recipes or data flow supports predictions. The automatic prediction field, which gets kicked off during the change data capture, we had to turn that off just because of some potential performance-related things. So I think it's the bulk predict, so that that bulk scoring feature we have in the UI. I think that's the only one we support for the spring release. But we're eventually going to open it up to all of the scoring capacity. Of course, the API, if you want to do predictions via the API in your own code, that will be supported as well. So really excited about this because there's a lot of models out there, and what we not only do we make model creation easier, but we make that deploy it to your wherever. We make that operationalization of the models super easy as well.
Yeah, that was awesome. Loved everything I saw. I did have one question that we didn't cover while you were actually demoing, and that was specifically around discovery insights, or data insights on the report builder. I did want to clarify that unlike discovery proper, I'm assuming you cannot change the bucketing values in that UI.
That's correct.
That's fair.
Yeah, and in fact, bucketing itself is the report bucketing, which is still, I think, one of the most superior features of all of Salesforce, just the way that you can just bucket things on the fly. And I don't think we have anything in Tableau CRM that lets you do that as easy as that. You can always create your own buckets. So if you have number fields that you want to do your own manual bucketing, buckets in reports let you do that. So we support bucketed field, yes.
Yeah, so do the standard, if you want to choose your own buckets for like opportunity amount, bucket first, and then let discovery do it. Okay, so it's there's a workaround, there's a reasonable low level effort workaround that supports that functionality. Cool.
Yep.
Next question. Are there any thoughts about a future state of embedding the visualizations that are available through data insights into the standard dashboard builder?
Absolutely. This when we first built the feature and I was starting to come up with the roadmap, that was something I had in mind. So based on priorities and things that we needed to get done with the product, we weren't ready to do that. So now that we are ready to do that, I'd definitely be open to ideas that you have. The way I was thinking of it was, if you're looking at a chart in a dashboard, standard dashboard, and you wanted to run insights on that could be a useful, there could be a useful flow there. Actually taking a dashboard and taking a visualization from data insights and putting that in a dashboard could be very useful as well. The only problem with that is it's when when the dashboard is run, that's run on a report instance, and an insight is also run on a report instance. So making sure that those are in sync is a little bit of a challenge. But what we want to do is, if you schedule a report, we want to be able to also schedule that refresh of the insights, and then perhaps maybe putting that in a dashboard could be useful as well. But yeah, absolutely.
Maybe even supporting in the inclusion of data insights in scheduled report subscriptions.
Right. Yeah.
Here I am.
Also,
you finally gave me a pony for Christmas, and I promptly asked for a rhino.
I want that feature, by the way. That's already on the short list of things that I want to do as soon as possible. Is scheduled refresh, scheduled story insights, all included on that notification. But future release.
Well, ton of progress on this one. Yes, it was a long video, and it was an awesome one. So that's all the questions I have. And I'd like to thank you again for coming out. And to those watching at home, please, if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, tell a friend. And as always, thanks for watching.